Okay, I'm kind of glad that you asked about 40 because when we did the long notes last time, there was a lot of repetition for certain type of questions. You almost always undo basic algebra at the start and or end of a question. You almost always switch it from whatever form it's in to the other form. That was pretty consistent. There's a few that looked a little differently, like the one that needs to be factored kind of looks differently. But this was one that was not really repetitive, but I kind of touched on it as an option. So on this, if these two bases were the same, like if this was a 7, then that part of the equation is already equal, so you could just set the exponents equal to each other. But since they're not, really your only option here is to take the log of both sides of the equation. So I presented that as an option to you in your notes, but then I don't use it very much. Sometimes it's helpful and sometimes necessary like this. So that's kind of the trick to this question. Take the log of both sides. Now the reason why this works out is because of our properties of logarithms. Now this x squared is an exponent on something I'm taking the log of. So that allows me to bring him down so he's no longer in the exponent. Same with this exponent. It's an exponent on something I'm taking the log of. So this can come down out front. Okay, and now it's looking a little more manageable. Looks like maybe one that we might have to finish with the calculator based on these numbers, but we'll see. Okay, so this is just a number. If I distribute it here, I've got 6 times that, negative x. I guess I put the x there. Okay, and yeah, this one looks like it's going to be kind of tough to solve by hand. I think I'm going to rely on my calculator here. But this is a quadratic. Biggest exponent is a 2. Then I've got some x's, and then I have a constant. But anytime you're trying to solve a quadratic, move everything over. So add this over, subtract this over. So then it's set equal to 0. So the only way to finish this by hand, which would be super messy, would be to use quadratic formula. We have a coefficient of a, or x squared, we have a coefficient of x, and we have a constant. So since it's a quadratic, you could use quadratic formula for that a, b, and c. But plugging those numbers into the quadratic formula is going to look pretty messy. So instead, I think I may have mentioned this last class for you guys. But I'd like to go ahead and show you again anyway. Because those of you going on to calculus next year, this is a calculator skill that you definitely need to have that you probably have not used before. But it's also kind of helpful for the ACT. So if you hit math and go all the way down here, you're going to have something called a solver, algebraic solver, numeric solver, something like that. Hit enter. And depending on which calculator you have, this menu is going to look slightly different. This is why you need to practice it sometimes if you're going to use it. But you basically put one side of your equation here and the other side of your equation there. So I've got log 3 of x squared plus x log of 7 minus 6 log 7 equals 0. You go down, and then if you hit alpha enter, down here in green it says solve, and your calculator will find the first one, because there's more than one answer here, it's a quadratic. So the first answer was about 2.493. But since it's a quadratic, I know there's another possibility, and so again, you have to play with this if you ever want to be able to use it as an option. You won't have to worry about this for our assessment. We wouldn't give you one like this that ends this way. But to find the other one, you have to change this number here, like maybe change it to -1, hit alpha enter again, and then it tries to find the answer closest to that. So notice now it's giving me a different answer. So it's not smart enough to just say here's all the answers, but it gives you one. If you change this to kind of give it a guess, then it will find you the one also close to that. So -4.264. So there's the two solutions to that as decimals. So, will you have to solve something this messy on the quiz? No. We won't make you do that. It'll be no calculator. Your hands would be pretty tied there. But this step, absolutely. Where you have to take the log of both sides as your only option to move forward, that's likely to happen.